Boom, and we're live. That worked out really well. The amount of time it took for the fantastic intro by Tape Damage, managed to clear the music and everything else. Amount of time it took it for that to go by, I see everybody came in, so this is excellent. If you guys didn't get to see the fantastic intro that Tape Damage made, be sure to check out the repeat sometime. He does a lot of great work. And I'm seeing already in the chat that there's a lot going on with people talking about the conference with Joe Biden, which I'm ashamed to say I didn't look at any of it. None of it. I unfortunately have the day job today, and I didn't have the spirit to do it. So hopefully that our responsible journalist Alison, when she gets here, will maybe have seen it or be able to cover it. If not, I'm sure we've got plenty in the chat. Alison is running a little bit behind because she's actually journalisming right now herself and recording another video, I believe, on Miss Ivory Hecker. And we'll be talking about Ivory on this show too, I'm quite certain. But that's going to be more content for everybody to check out. So we need to, of course, hate to get in the Scott Adams mode of things. I'm not going to do a simultaneous sip because, well, that's Scott Adams, and I'm not necessarily for hypnosis. I talk about hypnosis and manipulation, but I try not to do it myself. So instead, I just encourage everybody to please share what exactly you are having. I'm having Hunley. Now, I said hi a lie and was quickly corrected. It was like, okay. Didn't know that. So apparently it's Hunley. It's a fantastic IPA I discovered in Florida when I was at the Disney Resort. And apparently it is named after a game. And I had no clue. I had never heard of the game. So there's a game called Hunley. There's a beer called Hunley. I fully support the beer called Hunley. All right, Courtney Grace has milk. Courtney is very responsible. And we have Dr. Wood says alcohol is gross. Okay. Somebody said they have wine. Somebody had wine and it already went by. I'm not doing a great job. Oh, Winking Owl Sweet Red Wine from KM. Awesome. He's Sean Brim is Firewall Whiskey and Michelob Ultra with lime. Yeah. Okay. And Dr. Wood has an apple pie vape. Well, you're probably having the best time of all. Dan S. Black Box Cabernet Sauvignon 2019. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm trying to get the pompous Sauvignon quality to it, but you know, I'm not Viva, so I can't actually do it. We've got a Canadian Club and Pepsi, a Paleo Scotch Reserve from BCE. Yep, cannabis is good for the soul. I've heard that, Dr. Wood. So, and I don't even need a PhD to hear that. So that's fantastic. Oh, okay. Bruno's kidding. Well, you're old enough to drink paleo. I figured you were there when they actually distilled it. Ziggy Shrug, water, early work. Hey, good idea. Lee Harvey, Royal Crown Cola, RC Cola. RC Cola is awesome. That is totally awesome. And good for you. Let me see. Charlie Cohen's Hunley in Tijuana is great. $1 margaritas in the 80s. We got Bailey's. HM has a what would you call that? A very recent vintage of water, 2021 H2O in South Texas. Got raspberry lemonade and on. And let's see. We always have to start off everything with, I feel, some kind of a public service. You know, we really want to move things forward, and there's an organization called change.org. And change.org usually has a bunch of petitions that are put forth by people who are very in love with their own opinions. And often I kind of roll my eyes whenever I see them. But like broken clocks, sometimes they can get it right. And somebody shared with me this change.org petition. I believe it was shared on unstructured.locals.com. And I kind of have to agree with it. And that is, we want Jeff Bezos to stay in space when he does his first flight. And I think that, there is definitely something here to that he's already pulled all the money from the planet that is necessary. He has served his place. I'm okay if he hangs out in space for all of time. How about you? Are you guys okay? I mean, I think that Amazon will run itself and we can get the 2-day shipping, or you can get Prime or everything else, but he's left his mark. He's got a legacy. I could see that may be a very useful petition. So I want to encourage everybody to consider signing it. I will have, of course, links to the stories in the description. I'm trying to be responsible about this and actually put the links in the description. I have been the last few rounds. So there will be a link to this. Everybody can sign it. I think that you may be doing a public service. And on to the next story. This is quite a treat. We have in Japan a mask. We are putting a mask on a statue that is, let me see, 35 kilograms. So I'm going to say, what is that, 90 pounds approximately, on a 187-foot high statue in Japan, to be removed only when coronavirus is brought under control in the country. I have to give kudos to these guys, because this here is an amazing, amazing virtue signal. I mean, look at this. Isn't that just beautiful? We want to show the world we care so much. One question though, why is it 2 masks? Because, I mean, shouldn't we do the Biden and double up on the masks? Because, I mean, if we're going to virtue signal, I think just doing 1 mask, you're falling short here. You're falling short. You need to have more responsibility and, shame yourself a little bit further. So here you go. This is our virtue signaling story of the day. And I just had to share it now. And while we're on Twitter, because, hey, Twitter, it is a fantastic place to find very quick memes, all kinds of garbage going on from people and themselves. Have you guys heard about problems in, let's say, the San Francisco area, and specifically Walgreens, and how Walgreens is not staying in the area? They're shutting down store after store, etc. Well, I don't know, but I have a feeling, a minor feeling, that we may be on to exactly why. Let's go ahead and look at some footage. Wait, there's more. It helps if I pick the right link. So let me try this again and go to the Walgreens. There's so much good on Twitter today. Obviously, you can see a theme here. I will try this again, because this is mind-blowing. And I'm glad that Dr. Wood is in here, because he can always speak to this as well. All right, let me get back to our story at hand. This is in Walgreens, and let's watch. It's only 21 seconds. Wow. Oh, go, security guard. Go. Let's watch it again. It's only 21 seconds. I just love, I love seeing this harmony and how nice things are. You know, this is freedom, folks. This is pure class. And yeah, somebody brought it up. I hope it's under $1,000. And then, hey, who cares, right? Who cares? Just let them go. Right there. Right there. But what do you think? I mean, and look, it's like, oh, this is your security guard. Oh, yeah. Wait, hold on. I'm gonna audition. I'm a security guard now. Yeah, I think I got it framed. Well, maybe I should do a widescreen. It's probably better. Jesus. I mean, just I see that, and guess what? If I was Walgreens, shut it down. Shut the damn thing down. I mean, I get it. If you cannot do anything about it, you can't hire people. If you're completely trapped, I'm not going to blame the store. And while I even, want to mock the security guard, I don't know their instructions. It's very, very possible the security guard was given instructions: do not interfere with anybody when they're stealing. So I don't know that, and I don't want to accuse them, but I think the whole situation is very disgusting, and I can see why it's easier for the Walgreens to just say, we'll just shut it down. I mean, they're not profiting. How can you profit from the store when your merchandise is lifted right out in front of you? That's just, it's beyond ridiculous. And the contempt of somebody just, I mean, did you see it? You cannot get more brazen, more bold than the guy. I mean, the person involved with, convenience cycle. Obviously, there's plenty of material there, I'm sure, to facilitate an arrest. However, do you actually think that is going to happen? No. So if nothing is going to happen, what is the incentive? The incentive is to steal it. Oh, by the way, somebody asked what's on my shirt. Everybody knows I'm a huge Viva Bars fan. Politics ruins everything. Got to, support the main event of the evening, if you will. So let's see. On to another story. I hope you guys are enjoying the relatively rapid pace. I wanted to put out actually that if you're on unstructured.locals.com, I highly encourage you to comment on the News with Booze when it's over, because I'd like to do a feedback thing where we address or look at questions that came up during the show or comments, and then next week we can kind of revisit everything that's going on. I think that would be very cool to keep the communication going. So if you're there, please comment. It could be whatever. It could be like, Eric, boy, you picked some dumb clips. Whatever you like. If you're not there, I highly encourage you to join unstructured.locals.com. I'm practicing. I'm not Barnes. I know that. I'll never get there. But I can try. Now, we were talking about our fine leader of the free world. And I saw something, we'll call it a day of broken clocks, but we have our favorite news source, CNN, and they're actually asking or making a comment that's very, very interesting.
Before getting on a plane, as all of the really images and the narrative from this summit is set. He wanted to take that off the table. But we have seen President Biden do that frequently. What we've not seen him do is answer questions like that without his aides screaming at him to stop. I have never seen a president, covering the last four of them, who is so protected by his aides in terms of often not wanting him to answer some questions before getting on a plane.
Okay. Think about that for a minute. Even CNN is saying this guy doesn't answer questions. We don't know what goes on. We did everything in our power to make sure that he was the man, but Um, um, he doesn't seem to be answering the questions. Eek. I'm sorry, that just cracks me up because it's like, the time has gone by, everything's established, so now we can say, oh yeah, that weird thing, John Stewart can now come out and say, oh, you know that theory? Yeah, duh, it's real. Oh my God. And, get an argument with Colbert, who has so much trouble going away. E. Clark, good point. E. Clark's pointing out that they've been wearing masks in Japan for years, even before the pandemic. Totally agree. Got that. However, then they should have had the mask on there to begin with. Why did they waste the time? That's completely crazy. And speaking of an invasion, we have an incomplete name here of Viv Fly. How you doing, Viv?
I'm living up to the typo moniker.
Dude, that was the best typo ever.
Oh God, no!
We got to talk about that.
The dong. Hold on. If it's news with booze, I got to make something for the news.
Oh wait, do not let me stop you on that. Okay, guys, you know that I did 2 reaction videos now on Tom McDonald, and I'm proud to say I shared it with David Viva and sent him down the Tom McDonald rabbit hole.
What a rabbit hole it is to be. I think every music video Tom McDonald has made, and they're all amazing in an artistic sense. You don't have to agree with the message, and some of them you might actually disagree with, but he's a pure artist in a meaningful sense.
Yes, I mean what I like about him, and he actually inspired me. Actually, everybody here inspired me because they were saying, get him on. And obviously I can't just go, hey, Tom, you gonna show up on Tuesday? For some reason, I think he's kind of a busy dude. But I was like, well, let me check out his stuff because I never heard of the guy. And I checked it out. And I went on this rabbit hole some months ago. And it was like, okay, that's a pretty cool song. And I don't like rap. I'm not a hip hop person, whatever. I'm a Gen Xer. I like rock, whatever. But I'm like, okay, that's good beat, good message. Damn. And and it was just really catchy, especially the first one I checked out was Fake Woke. And I did a reaction on that one actually Monday, Tuesday, I don't know, recently. That was an amazing song. So I've been following for a while, and people keep saying, get on. And I thought about it, I was like, well, maybe I should talk about why people want to have him on. Maybe I should do a reaction video because I watch reaction videos. I don't spend all of my time. A lot of times I like to get away, and rather than watch political whatever, I get off on watching reaction videos of people checking out Pink Floyd, who I really love. And it kind of just relaxes me late at night to go, hey, it's almost like I'm introducing a song to a friend. Like, you haven't seen this, you haven't heard this song. It's so awesome. And then, they discover it, and you sort of feel that sense of discovery with them. So I was like, well, let me try that, but I don't want to do it because my personality sucks. I don't have that kind of dynamic range like our friend Viva here.
Well, it was good, and it was good enough. It was good. It's interesting. I say these reactions, they're good because they're insightful into who you are, not necessarily the reaction to the video. There's thousands of reaction videos out there. They're all, by and large the same. He said some edgy things about Schmushmortion. He said some edgy things about but the interesting thing is the way it relates to the person who's doing the reviewing. And I got to know, I think I know not everything, but I know a lot of stuff about you. So it was a good way just to recap what I knew and to share your personal life experience with others. But no, Tom McDonald, the videos are amazing. The story behind them is amazing because he does it with his girlfriend. His girlfriend's got, they both got something of a troubled past. They've got a past that has defined who they are in the present, which, it is what it makes you.
Sure.
They've got an amazing model. They've got an amazing message. And he really is. The music is good. The beat is good. If you don't like hip hop, I think you might still like it. It's Eminem-esque. Yeah. But the message is interesting, and it's provocative in that you don't know what he believes after having watched a lot of his videos. You don't know which side he's on. I get the impression he's just on the side of the people against, the powers that be.
Yeah, I think so. Free speech guy.
Glorious stuff.
Yeah, I think that he probably leans center right, just from the vibe I get. I mean, the stances he takes, but I don't think he's too far one direction or another. He's a legit guy. I mean, he was a former pro wrestler before all this, and then he had, I mean, an extreme alcohol problem, I guess, was just bottomed out extremely hard, went into rehab for a long time. Anyway, there's a lot of story there. So hopefully between us, one of us will get him on. I know that Viva's invited him. He's got better odds, but you did get a follow.
I haven't invited yet. I don't want to. I that funny tweet connection we made was not. I don't want people to feel like exploited in the connection. It's funny to make the connection. Things happen organically or they don't over time. Sure. But my goodness, what a funny. So I tweeted out. Tom McDonald tweeted out something about people censoring his song. It's still up to 27 million views and it's doing great despite people censoring the song or boycotting the song. And so then I replied, oddly enough, the people boycotting the song, I guess you could call them snowflakes. LOL, I'll show myself out. Except the S and the D are very close to each other on a keypad, and I got fat little pudgy fingers. And I had said boycott the dong and not boycott the song. And everybody knows, typically I'll delete a tweet if it has a typo that has not been retweeted yet. Because once it's been retweeted, it's sort of unfair to the people who retweeted it.
Right.
That their Twitter feed says deleted by author. I think I could have gotten to this one sooner than I did, but my God, when I read this thing, I was like, that's hilarious. And I'll just and then Tom McDonald replies, says, well, this obviously deserves a follow. And now he's going to see my insane Twitter feed. Tom McDonald's Canadian, so he's going to get back into Canadian politics by following if he's not already following it. I think he is, but he'll get.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
To a follow. How's my audio, by the way? Because I'm on my iPhone right now.
It's not too bad. I did bump you up in StreamYard, so we're cool. We're cool.
I don't have my computer. It's upstairs, and I've snuck into the basement. I think the kids are.
I figured. Okay, folks. I invited him earlier. There was no guarantee that he'd be able to make it because he has things like family and responsibility.
In between my stream and coming in here, I had to go walk Winston, squeeze Pudge, make her poop in the sewer, pee on the sidewalk, and I got 3 kids, watching a movie upstairs. So and they're not in bed yet. It's 9:30. These kids don't understand. I didn't go to bed early when I was a kid, but some of their friends go to bed at 7:30. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, that is. Thank you. Look at this. We have love hate here. Bruno. All right, right on track. Have the Hunley shirt and the Fry mug. Hate you both, but you have cool merch. All right. Fry mugs in various colors and a cool selection of my shirts. Yes, everybody, buy my shirts. If you hate me, buy 2, please.
I don't think Mike hates either of us. I think it is the loving relationship where you can only make those types of jokes with someone who you truly like. That's the way I take that.
You know what? I will go with that. That sounds
where's
fantastic.
That not coming.
She is journalisming right now.
Cool.
Doing a Ivory Hecker response with a news director friend of hers. So that'll probably be coming out as well. So I don't know. At some point she'll come in, and I forgot to send her the link. So
Ivory Hecker suspended today. That beautiful. It's like you realize that we are all playing roles in a play, and when you know that what has to happen, and then it just happens, and it happens in such a way that both Ivory and whoever the superior was or the HR who called her to tell her she was suspended, they knew what they were doing, and like there she is. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Let me just see one thing. Where's the camera? This is the camera there. Okay, now I know where to look. I got to look into the
What an interview. I didn't get to catch all of it, unfortunately, because I had work I had to get done.
Neither did I.
It'll be worth watching it again afterwards. Look, we went over everything. New York Times, CNN, Twitter, the AFT lawsuit, which I'm familiar with, Acorn. I even asked the question.
I hadn't heard of Food Lion.
Say it again?
I hadn't heard of the Food Lion ABC one. I've got to look that one up.
I thought there's a few. Robert sent me 4 lawsuits at about 4:00 this afternoon. I 4 lawsuits involving Twitter, but I was not Twitter, Project Veritas. I was familiar with 3 of them, but I got the answer to the Acorn question because it's in the Acorn question. The critique of James O'Keefe was that he had spliced in video where he was dressed in the classic pimp outfit and not the business suit pimp outfit. And there's an explanation is that there were multiple takes, and some of them had the classic pimp, which might, if they call that selective editing and misrepresenting, fine. We will have different standards, but at least we know where we disagree.
All right. Well, we went immediately yellow. I forgot to turn on monetization. I just did it right now. Insta yellow, man. I mean, it's like
I got yellow with James, first one in a long time, but I asked for a manual review.
Oh, that one will get remonetized. I can't imagine they demonetize that, but
he said shit 3 times and that.
Oh, really?
How are you doing?
How am I doing? I'm doing good. I just recorded a video about your video and James O'Keefe's video, so it's very meta.
and now same stream talking about the videos we just shot, referencing each other's videos.
Yeah, I can give you a little bit of background about what people in the news business are saying about all of this, if you guys want it.
Well, let me make my prediction, because I think the people in the news industry are worried about losing their jobs when these massive news agencies go bankrupt or have to restructure because people are going to defect. Damn it.
No, what we all need to understand about what's going on is that the people who, don't want to come to terms with the issues are...
Rotate your camera, David.
You're going to find... Hey, Robert.
Stuff just gone
to the party. They'll find any reason to write somebody off. So, I've heard my buddy Bill Doris knows people who worked with her directly in Kentucky and said they really liked working with her. But then I've also heard through the grapevine from friends that she was a problem employee. And so what's the truth? I don't know. I don't know, but I can assure you that any journalist who's in the industry who wants to write all of this off is definitely going to find a way to do that.
I say that the immediate red flag for me, even though I appreciate and respect what she did, I know what people are going to say. Anybody recording conversations with their employers or their superiors, it is immediately going to cast that flag, especially when, the big gotcha is not like something that's shocking, like they murdered someone and buried the body, or they stole $100,000. It's just classic corporate corruptionism, classic corporate corruption. And so that's not shocking enough to maybe justify recording conversations, maybe. But we hear the inner workings of Fox News, and it's gonna cause people to question Fox News, for those who have not already started to question Fox News.
Well, remember, this is not Fox News. So we have to be very clear here, right? This is a Fox O&O. Yeah, but it's different than Fox News.
Right.
But isn't it ironic?
Say that again?
I can never take employers' criticisms seriously when employers spy on their employees more than anybody in the world does. I mean, they overlap the NSA. So like when I hear some CEO complain, I'm like, I'm sorry. I mean, these are people that put cameras in bathrooms when they can get away with it. So it's like, I have no sympathy for corporations.
No, and I guess at the end of the day, like, yeah, here's the devil's advocate on this one though. When you sign a contract with a TV corporation, you sign away your life. I mean, you say you can tell me what to wear, you can tell me what to do with my hair and my makeup, you can tell me what to say. There's no rights really for the employee. You can even fire me with really no warning, but I have to give you like, I have to wait till the end of the contract, and then I have to wait out a 6-month non-compete. You know what I mean?
I don't think any of these contracts should be legal. It's like almost all the contracts in Hollywood with their agents. Almost all of them, I look at them, they're like patently illegal. They have restrictive covenants in them that are not supposed to be enforceable. And yet, these are some of the most, these are Hollywood agents, some of the most powerful people in the culture. And yet they have ridiculous, to me, it's like slavery contracts, indentured servitude contracts. At some point, they are so lopsided, they make no sense to enforce.
But Alison, explain the distinction, because we know it's a Fox affiliate. I don't know what the exact term is. It's a
Fox O&O. It's not an affiliate. Affiliate's different than an O&O, but it's also not Fox News.
Hold on. Sorry, what are you saying? L&L or O&O?
O&O means owned and operated, versus an affiliate, which is like we're owned by a different ownership company, but we get Fox programming. So
Didn't Fox
like I
News
was an
get broke off?
NBC affiliate. I worked for an NBC affiliate in Seattle, which meant we weren't an NBC O&O. We weren't owned by NBC, you know, whoever owns NBC, or it's NBC Universal or whatever they are. We were owned by Tegna, but we were an NBC affiliate, which meant that we played NBC shows. You know, Lester Holt comes to town. All the anchors do the rodeo with Lester Holt, and the marketing is all NBC. But we don't, you know, they have no real control over our editorial process.
So, and
you know,
what was this Fox 26?
This was an O&O, which basically means that yes, your now you are owned by Fox, but keep in mind that, you know, Fox News Channel is its own cable outlet, and their way of doing things is not in any way related to what a Fox O&O is, which is why, you might share some content, like maybe Tucker Carlson comes to town or whatever. It's easier to get him on the show because you work for the same company. But that's why their editorial decision making, like you may say Fox News Channel leans right, but a Fox O&O may lean left because their own, their own ownership, or sorry, not ownership, editorial management team is completely separate from Fox News Channel.
So what's the deal on licensing the Fox brand then? Like, there's got to be some quality.
Well, it's the difference between Fox TV and Fox News Channel. Both,
exactly,
by Murdoch, but they're technically that was the old. Who was that comedian that did kind of a lefty comedian, funny, but he did this whole rant. He said, I want to be able to go on Fox News Channel where I can scream about what's on Fox TV. And he used to be one of his riffs. Louis
Black? Or Louis
Black?
C.K. or Louis Black, or the two Louises?
Black.
Louis Black. Yeah. Is that it? I saw him live.
Probably.
I should remember him. Funny guy.
Well, he's got a loud voice, sort of a smoker's voice.
Yeah.
That's Louis Black for sure.
Yeah. That's it.
Either way, I will say I was late tonight because I was checking my bank account, wondering why I didn't quit going on Project Veritas. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. But it looks like they've raised a ton of money for her. So I'm like, why did I just quietly leave and start my own YouTube channel? That was a dumb business move.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, my recollection is that, the way the way it was described when you left was more like, oh, she's just going in to explore some other aspect of life. It was that kind of, like when people left Trump, and Trump was like, everybody's happy here, even though everybody knew everybody was pissed at each other. It had this nice veneer to it. Though I don't know if you heard, he says he has another dozen local news reporters and anchors who want to do the same.
Yeah, I did. I heard
my God.
Notice
There's plenty of content for my channel.
her first segment, that first part, and I know I'm probably going against the common theme here. The first segment about the Bitcoin, I thought that was a nothing burger.
Except for the degree of racial stupidity in corporate marketing departments that are controlling production. That's what stood out to me about that. It's not, you're right, it's not like ideologically motivated censorship, so it's not in that capacity. But the idea that you think that, what images do you have in your head that nobody pays attention to an actual low income market. That didn't even make sense to a certain degree. But putting that aside, because they're not a big consumer model, but you could see this was someone who thinks so dumb. They're like, oh, I guess got to sell, just stereotypical things. And it's like totally.
Well, they go by research, they just wherever, whatever. Like these people like this kind of thing. It's all stereotypical.
Never actually researched that
topic. With the Mercedes commercial, or a Mercedes segment, I don't know if it would make any difference. That's all I'm saying. I'm like, the second part was stronger, but that first part is kind of going.
But my thought about the Bitcoin is that I'm sure they could have got Bitcoin advertisers to sponsor a bit on Bitcoin. So it's not that I was shocked about the content. I didn't think it was revolutionary, or what's the word? I didn't think it was
shocking. It wasn't enlightening.
No, it wasn't shocking. What I just found shocking about it is the stereotypes. It's the soft bigotry of low expectations. It's nice. Oh, the one stereotype, what we think of our Black demographic. Second stereotype, what we think of the interests of our Black demographic.
What do we think of poor people?
Yes.
they might be very interested in Bitcoin because it might be their way out.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like that's like saying like poor people don't go to college, so let's not do a story about college. Yeah. It's like, well, maybe you should do a college story so poor people can get into college. You know what I mean? It's
like Cartman grew up and had a female transition, and that was that person. Because I mean, that was like from South Park. I mean, that was the level of analysis, and she was so confident in this. It was like it was revelatory. She had this deep insight. I was like,
you guys,
this is.
Isn't this what I told you when I came on your channel? I mean, I say this all the time. Like, people think that there's like these extremely intelligent, evil masterminds, but like that is exactly who's running the show.
No,
that's the problem.
It's not just the banality of evil; it's the banality of stupidity that these people represent.
Well, no, I think they're not. I think they might be low-level pawns in this game. I think the evil is on the higher ups in terms of hiring people who are going to carry out these idiotic orders. Hey, yeah, we don't want this to run. Let's find a reason that the supervising HR person is going to believe in and then, impose on the rest. But I just think in terms of the actual idea of corruption and, catering to advertising dollars, it was something incongruous where you have two differing messages in that they don't think their audience would like it, but they could have sold that story to a Bitcoin type sponsor who might be very eager to pay big bucks to be on Fox News. But
she's wrong about the audience, by the way. If you actually study the Bitcoin audience, there's disproportionate interest within the Black community for Bitcoin. Now, they're not necessarily buying the most of it or the rest, but it's a complete. That's where it was like, this is like 1950s level stereotypes. That was not based on research. That was based on stereotypes, and they pretend it's market research, but it's 9 times out of 10, it's just bad stereotypes of what they think people watch.
It's soft bigotry of low expectations. Bitcoin's too complicated. Let's go to whatever else they're going to run.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what the other reality is? It was Bitcoin's probably too complicated for her.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, she doesn't know anything about Bitcoin, and that's why she said that. It's total projection. What do you say? Confession by projection.
Through projection.
Yeah. Hey, James O'Keefe said it tonight. So it's spreading well.
It's good. It will be the catchphrase of 2021. But bottom line, I still don't understand Bitcoin. I've read, I've listened, I've talked to people privately. I still don't understand.
I was just saying, by the way, I don't get it either. So while we're making fun of her, I'm a dummy too.
Well, I bought into it, hopefully on the dip, but I don't know. I'm still down like 25%. So I'm not.
But think about your instinctual interest. If you were a producer on a news station and there was something you didn't understand, wouldn't that make you more interested in having a news story that could sort of give some elementary explanation to it, rather than I don't understand this, so I'm going to suppress it because I'm sure nobody likes it, or at least this audience doesn't.
Well, for Bitcoin, I wouldn't suppress it. I just won't cover it because I still don't understand it. I have had in-depth conversations, and I'm like, okay, still don't understand it. So I'm not talking about it. I'm not promoting it. I'm not denigrating it. But I may have placed my bets with it. But no, this Fox News bit was not a smoking gun like Jeff Zucker saying we're going to try to take down Trump. This was just corporate corruption. It's like, yeah, we are working for advertising dollars, and we're going to cater our narrative to that. The question is anyone going to look at Ivory again in the future and say, we can ever hire someone like this? That's the risk. She might have made herself unemployable by doing this, but she might have made herself self-employable.
She was already, I don't know.
In mainstream news, no, she's not going back to mainstream news. No. But she doesn't need to. She could probably retire at this point. I mean,
she can't retire, but she can rebrand. She can rebrand as an independent journalist and have a lot of crowd support and do rogue on the street stuff just herself with her phone. That's all you need these days.
I mean, I think the thing that really ticked her off wasn't like the Bitcoin kind of stuff. It was the it was not covering a certain therapeutic, which we can't. I don't know if we can yet. They gave Brett Weinstein a second strike.
If you called it Oxy, we can talk about it because you can talk all day long about oxycodone and all the oxycontins and stuff. It's called Oxy, hydroxy, but we'll just leave it Oxy.
That might be.
I'm sure that Alison will if she gets.
No, I was saying the I don't want to say it. That might be why the stream got demonetized, but I doubt it. But yeah, it was the way she was treated in her coverage of that, where she was being berated for not having asked certain questions, but these were questions intended to put her in a position where she could never run the story because they're not questions you can get an answer to. So I could see her being very miffed at that. But look, she did what she feels is right, and people are going to appreciate that. And I think she has a catapult into a new domain now, and now she's got to explore.
She's fine.
Well,
she's fine. It's the 12 behind her that O'Keefe just talked about. See, she's got a path. She did it. She led the way. She's good to go. Those next 12, no, they're going to have our time. You're only going to get so many.
That's true.
I quit in a tantrum on TV. Successes.
And she's going to now have to bring it. You know what I mean? It's like now you're going to have to, if you want to maintain an audience and stuff. So this is the beginning. Let's see what happens. And, good wishes, well wishes to her. It's definitely, it's a different world going from being behind a corporate brand and having a ton of resources and, steady, even with all the problems, as we all know, being out there and being the brand and doing all this on your own and stuff, it's very different. So, it'll be interesting to see not just her, but any person that decides that they want to get out and they're like, I'm going to do this on my own and whatever. It's not an easy. It's a hard grind. To try to do the business side of things, the marketing side. I mean, you're running a business. You're also trying to be a journalist or media analyst or whatever it is. And I don't think that people who like the Cheryl Atkinsons who came before us got the credit they deserve because she just left quiet. You know what I mean? I mean, she's wrote a book and everything, but she just was like, I'm out. And she worked her butt off and look at her now. But, there was no big Cheryl throws the microphone down on CBS moment for her.
No, the
real deal, hardcore investigator.
Yeah.
The hardest thing I find is not the infrastructure. It's not the cost. It's just verifying your information and making sure you're not making an obvious mistake or you're not missing an article or you're not missing a judgment. But then that's where you learn how to crowdsource your audience, your network, and just make sure your information is accurate and have a few select handful of people who vet your videos before they go out. But
that's really good.
It's not the cost of the infrastructure. It's just the cost of the brain to make sure you're not putting out something that's inaccurate or outdated.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that wrong, admit it. Just admit it immediately. I was wrong and this is why. And
I do think so there are some big picture things that came out of that video for a news journalist. We were talking about Bitcoin specifically, but generally speaking, what that revealed, which a lot of people probably already knew, is that, you're picking stories for different newscasts based on who's going to stay around and watch the commercial, right? I mean, you want the most people around who are watching the commercial so you can make more advertising revenue. And, it's funny because they were talking specifically what they weren't going to do, but all the time when I pitch stories, my bosses ask me about why does the suburban soccer mom making macaroni and cheese for her kid at 5 o'clock care about that story on wolves or whales or whatever else, to the point where I finally go, I don't care if she doesn't care. Maybe she's a moron, and I'm not going to base all of my editorial decisions on, I don't know why she doesn't care, and they would always get annoyed at me when I would say that, but I always just thought that was just such a circular argument. But that's what that revealed, right? That's a constant, that they're constantly thinking about that stuff. And they're thinking about if Ellen is playing at 3, then your 4 o'clock lead is not going to be 16 people murdered down the street. It's going to be, today we're making, we're making little stuffed animals and we're going to show you how to do it, in an eco-friendly way or whatever. Whereas an hour later at 5 o'clock, it's 20 people were stabbed to death down the street. And, that's how that all changes based on, the lead in and who's watching. And so, yeah, there's a ton of factors that go into how editorial decisions are made. And most of them come down to, if not all, come down to just maintaining the viewers to get them to commercial breaks so that you can charge more money for ads.
My curiosity about that is twofold. One is that it seems to me, my experience in a wide range of spaces, is that the professional class makes terrible judgments about what is actually popular. That, they get the ratings information later, but they often project their own biases as to pretending this is popular and this isn't. Mm-hmm. And the second one was, how much do they create their own reality? In other words, because they butchered local news, people like me quit watching it. I hate it. If I see it on, I find something to turn it off as quickly as possible. It's always going to be some terrible, horrible, awful. And that didn't used to be the case. There used to be fun stories. There used to be investigative reporting stories. I still have my old history professor. He watches it religiously for the weather. He turns it on right when the weather's on. He wants to see the weather report. But, I wonder how much they damage their own brand by doing that. Oh, and then the last component of it, we mentioned it with O'Keefe, was she seemed like she was coming out of this, it's like the Phoenix lady, a generational gap. In other words, somebody who's not one of these kids who has seen TV journalism just completely degrade over the past 5 years to a certain degree, that it seems like it's a certain generational mindset that's getting out. Is that reflective, do you think, or is that just coincidence?
Yes, I do. But, I do also know a lot of older people that I worked with who are mainline liberals who think the news business and even despite all its problems, it's like their brains malfunctioned under Trump or something. And they're like, I'm quitting because I'm, 60 and I got a retirement buyout and it sucks here anyway. But then for whatever reason, then Trump rolls around. It's like, but the news business is great and we're doing great work and we stand for truth. And you're like, wait a second, you just took a retirement buyout because you said it sucks here. So it's a very weird kind of a cognitive dissonance thing. But I do think that the younger people who are going into it, first off, I still to this day, I don't really quite understand why a young person who has the opportunity to go into new media wants to go into legacy media. It's still kind of a weird thing to me because
it's clout. It's clout. It's being able to say I work for Fox News as opposed to I have a YouTube channel with.
Yeah, but nobody thinks it's cool to work for listen, when I got married, okay, people used to think it was cool back when I was younger. All right. I work for, you work for the news? Now my husband goes, yeah, I was a sniper in the Marine Corps and I trained cops. And well, if they don't hate him for that, then they'll go, oh, that's so cool. And then they just push me out of the way. I mean, it's just Allison can go to a corner bar. No one cares about mainstream news anymore. I really don't think that the vast majority of people. So if they're thinking they're going into a business where the public cares, they're just living in a bubble because the vast majority of people just don't care that you work for a mainstream news organization. That's their own bubble hubris. Because I just don't think most people do.
It's a powerful bubble because a lot of people, when they get these awards, I only relate it to law. And when you're in a big law firm, you get your awards, you have your fancy galas at the end of the year, and people love it. And that's what they aspire to. The people on the street, baptism through fire, going out and hustling, they don't give a sweet bugger all about the big firm crap. But they're in a different world, and then they overlap occasionally. But no, I agree. Most people don't care about it except to demonize it. But the people in it who get their awards and who have their YouTube channels and who have Susan Wojcicki, framing them as heroes at the end of the year for being brave and etc. They love it, and when they're in it, they love it. And then when they take that red pill and they realize what an illusion they've been living, then they can't go back. And I think. Ivory took that red pill. Which one is it? Red, blue, or black, or white?
Red. Go right. White, I don't remember. Rekieta, by the way, Nick Rekieta made the statement that you will both appreciate that journalists have lifted lawyers from being the bottom of the pile to no longer being the bottom of the heap.
Bottom of the heap is politicians.
And journalists are down there.
No. Right. Bottom of the heap is politicians, journalists, lawyers, and that's a very dirty, low heap right there. As far as I'm concerned, we're all equal. So,
well, I mean, look at how embarrassing the American press is in foreign events. So, watching, Putin just smack around. Now, I get why he picked the NBC guy he picked. He picked that guy because that guy is almost, this will relate to your other show, Eric. I don't know if you're doing it every Friday with Grubert. But not every. This guy's Putin deliberately chose the most well-known CIA asset in the media. People didn't understand, some people were baffled by his questions. That's why Putin chose him. Because he's been outed, I think, 3 times. For his being basically a CIA asset in the media. The number one, Jake Tapper, was a long time guy. That why do you think
Anderson Cooper?
Say they get
Anderson Cooper is an actual agent.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the guy's a Rockefeller. But watching that, that interview was embarrassing by itself. But putting that aside, CNN, you get these young reporters. Well, one of them wasn't that young. They get all excited about repeating these bad talking points out of the institutional Western press about Putin. To give one example, we're going to attack him for this conspiracy theory, this one, but they hit him on cyber crimes. And they clearly did not. Well, one, it was amazing how much it was moral grandstanding. These were accusatory. These weren't questions, really. Please explain how you're not going to be evil tomorrow, that kind of thing. But look at how brave I was. I stood up and asked it. What a crock. But the second part was, they asked questions they clearly didn't know. Like, they were shocked. They didn't have a follow-up to Putin's answers. So several of them would just repeat the same question the reporter asked just before it. But like one of the questions they asked about was cyber crimes, apparently not cognizant that the world leader in cyber crimes is the United States. Close number 2 is China. Russia doesn't make the top 10.
Yeah, North Korea is huge. I'd say North Korea may be number 1, actually.
Well, it depends on whether you include North Korea and China or not. I think some of the cybercrime analysis projects that. But yes, North Korea has a trained unit. Like what we project on Russia, North Korea actually does. But also our NSA does. I mean, the only clearly documented, admitted government cyber hacking was by the United States against Iran a few years ago.
Well done, too, by the way. And Israel helped on that.
Yes. Oh, of course. I mean, so but you look at that cross section, and it goes into Putin gave this example that I didn't know about. The U.S. has requested under the criminal information treaties cyber criminal information about Russian cyber gangs. The Russian government has complied 20 for 20 the last 2 years. Russians have made 90 requests over the last 2 years to the United States, and the U.S. has failed to help on any of the 90.
Now, but Robert, this is going to reflect poorly on Trump. Who was the president for the last 2 years when they made those requests?
Good point.
Well, part of them were these requests. But absolutely. But Trump was open about this in the sense that Trump was blatantly pro his definition of America first. So, I mean, that's where all the relations with Russia were so under Trump. But
that's the irony. I thought he was Putin's puppet.
Yeah, so all that was
flipping them over immediately. So doesn't that kind of go against that narrative too? So I'm confused.
Well, but this is the thing. The reality about internet hate, it doesn't have to be logical or consistent. It just has to exist. So if he gave it over, he's a Russian agent. If he didn't give it over, he's at fault for being, I don't know, non-diplomatic. There's no win. I just want to get it clear. I'll ask the question that I know people are going to be asking.
Yeah,
no, that's cool.
I mean, it's like watching our foreign press is like watching old Soviet-style journalists. It's so bad.
Hey, I had a question from unstructured.locals.com. I'll get there someday, Barnes. I'll never be as good, but this one's been kicking around, and I've encouraged feedback. They want to know if there's any updates on Juicy Smollett. Juicy Smollett.
Juicy Smollett. I haven't heard any, nor have I heard any on the FBI investigation into the powdered leather. But Robert, I mean, have you heard anything?
No, not that I know of.
Allison?
Nope, I don't know anything.
This one's for you, Allison. From Talix, master meme maker.
Meme maker, no question.
I'm wondering if there's any follow-up on that video she made with the lawyer for the family of the cop who was set up by the feds to pull the guy over who murdered him. Would love some updates.
Yeah, I heard back from the attorney a couple weeks ago, and they're still in the legal process of filing, I think. So I don't think there's an update there, but he said he would get back to me as soon as there was. So I do plan on bringing him back on when there is. I don't know what's been exactly the holdup. I don't know, Robert. Can you think of what would be taking them so long?
Well, I mean, usually those kind of claims have to go through a special administrative process.
Okay.
It's probably a Federal Tort Claims Act.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to go through it has to be the administrative remedies have to be exhausted. Same issue as Ashley Babbitt.
Okay.
So like they brought a Freedom of Information Act request against the DC police, but they can't sue really until the 6 months usually passes.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, that was part of the reason why they went public and everything. He said that there was a requirement that they notify their intent. So,
I mean, the whisper stop stuff, it was amazing how there was whenever this comes out, it's amazing how it doesn't go anywhere in the press. Because a couple of years ago, it came out that there was a whole bunch of illicit stops based on illicitly shared NSA surveillance. And that cops had been lying all across the country, giving bogus reasons why they actually pulled somebody over to hide this program. It made like 2 days of news and then vanished. So it was amazing. That whisper stop, like he acted like that was commonplace. And I was like, that's been a rumor, but that's never, basically that he was ordered by the feds to pull someone over who he didn't have probable cause to pull over.
Well, they can find probable cause very easily. didn't put on a blinker, cross the lanes, whatever, make it up. And then
that's a Mississippi style stop. My brother and I got pulled over that way when we were kids. There was a huge hole in the middle of the road, huge hole, and we were coming back from New Orleans, like New Year's Eve or whatever it was, and so you have to swerve to get around when you see the hole at the last minute. And 2 small town Mississippi cops are just sitting there pulling people over all night. They held us for an hour, legally searched the thing, everything else. And told us not to come back to town. It was like that whole rural Mississippi experience. Which Johnny Cash, they made a mistake doing that to Johnny Cash. So he might have been on something at the time, but that's another story. But that's why he sings that song. I think it's about Starkville. You might go to jail in Starkville for picking flowers. I mean, musicians can get real revenge in ways nobody else can.
True. Speaking of Johnny Cash, I'm not going to do a reaction on it, but one of the greatest songs of all time is Johnny Cash's cover of Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails' "Hurt."
And
especially with the video. I mean, the song is beautiful, but the video with the director is just it's dusty in the room every time I watch that video. Let's just put it that way. I have allergies. I'm not crying. Okay, I have allergies.
It's amazing. It's amazing, and I was going to do an analysis, but I think the analysis is too superficial. It's obvious why it's beautiful. The Trent Reznor version was about a drug addicted, and
excellent. Person. It was excellent too. But
it was amazing. It's amazing. But then the way it was analogized to the end of your life, reflecting back on it, all of the drugs turned into medication. All of the reflection and sorrow turned into reflection of end of life. It's beautiful. And Trent Reznor said after Johnny Cash did it, it's no longer his song.
Well, what's weird is it's after the video though, because when he heard the song, he said, "Meh, okay." But when he saw the video, and that's why I'm like, you have to watch the video too, because it was so impactful. And looking at the youth of Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash, and the love, and you could just. Wow. I mean, he knew he was going to die soon. And if it was, he almost did a David Bowie. Remember David Bowie dropped that album a week before his death and nobody knew. Sorry to hijack, but that was an amazing mic drop, because David Bowie, of all people, I mean, he was so far ahead. Every time he came out, he was leading fashion. It was like he was forever young in the way that not only was he always cool, but he always defined cool. Everybody followed behind him. And then he said, "Okay, and I'm dying. Bye."
What's fascinating is like a lot of what James O'Keefe was talking about tonight, access media, that the most common I hear that phrase is in the cultural commentator space. It's how Nerdrotic and Doomcock and Geeks and Gamers, it's how they describe the entire movie critic review industry, the Variety, Hollywood Reporter, how all of them are just sort of in the bag, just desperate for access and will do anything for access, in the same way that people describe sort of CIA-based reporting and the rest. It was intriguing, that terminology, but how much it applies. Like you look at Rolling Stone, used to publish Hunter Thompson. Now, Matt Taibbi does some occasionally good work, and but otherwise they have completely devolved. I mean, Mother Jones is a hack piece now that runs CIA conspiracy theories.
Breitbart was huge in that the whole politics is downstream of culture. Yes, I mean, that was his whole premise was just what you were saying. So Breitbart would have been inviting on Nerdrotic and everybody else. He's the one. I don't know if he brought on Milo or not. I think he did.
Bannon. I don't know. All I know is that now I'm retroactively analyzing what Robert and we have been doing. Now, I never fully appreciated the politics being downstream from media. It's an amazing thing, and now I'm appreciating Robert's insights in terms of what we've been doing and who we've been talking to and how it's going to influence mainstream media. It's
all about narrative shaping, and there's a lot of places that shape narrative, and that the culture is the primary area.
That's why I'm doing the reaction videos, is I feel like a Tom McDonald can slide a message to more people in their own neighborhood, in their own cars, their own homes, than any news or book out there. In one song, he's subversively sliding a message, and why I want to continue doing that, because I think of him as being like Bob Dylan of now.
Yeah. You know, I used to live near Bob Dylan in Malibu, but he hid out there because by the early 70s, there were people randomly dropping in the middle of his house thinking he was Jesus. He's like, I got to get a, because of how influential he'd been. But there is, just speaking of music, there's a great documentary on the South African use of music in their political movement. And it's brilliant. I had no idea how important it was, though when you hear it, I mean, it would just terrify the South African elites, the way in which they use this music and drums and the rest as part of their marches and rallies. And I was like, wow. So it's returning to roots of the power of culture to shape minds.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, where did rock music come from? Well, technically, it came from the blues. Where did that come from? Well, it came from jazz. Where did that come from? Well, it came from the slaves. I mean, that was a subversive culture who came in and got the message through, and a lot of it sadly came out of pain. Mm-hmm. But that's where
and a lot of country's a hybrid of folk and blues.
Sure.
I mean, Hank Williams Sr. was a big blues guy.
Bluegrass and definitely
bluegrass in the mountains. But like Hank Sr. is my view of the defining architect of country music to a certain degree today, and he was half bluegrass, half Southern blues.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, it definitely. What's so funny is if you look at like Ireland, you can see how strong the country influence is going, back to the old country, so to speak. So Alison is very quiet. I know that she's.
I've just been emailing Ivory to see if she'll come on my channel.
And now, just interrupt that, by the way. My phone goes dead. It's not because I decided to rudely get out of here. My phone is about to go dead. But
well, we're going to be wrapping soon because Alison has a babysitter, so I know that there's. Yeah,
I gotta go quit TV news. No, wait, I already did that. Hang on.
Forget. Do you have anything scheduled with Ivory, or not really?
Oh, I literally just emailed her while you guys were talking.
So what we need to do is mobilize the army to go to Twitter and get Ivory to contact Alison.
Yes.
Schedule a live stream discussion.
However, big news. Please do that. But I have a special guest coming on Saturday for my morning live stream. I don't know if you guys know Christy Lee. She was laid off by Sinclair and made it all the way to AJ's show on InfoWars. So I can't wait for that title, from mainstream TV to Alex Jones. Like, it's going to be amazing. So I'm excited about that. So Saturday morning, I think we're doing it at like 9:30 Pacific time.
It's a live stream Saturday morning, 9:30 Pacific time.
Yes. Right. Allison's channel.
It's fine for us. At midday for Eastern.
If I recall correctly, I think Sinclair Local News, if you look up the ratings, is actually watched by more people than any of the other cable news networks because people don't realize how much power they have.
They get poo-pooed on because they had, I think they had a political analyst that worked for Trump, and they're getting known as like the conservatives, and there are all those like employees that were speaking out to CNN, like they're forcing us to read things and stuff. I guess the way I looked at it was like, it's not really that different than a lot of forced things that people have to read for marketing campaigns and TV newsrooms. And, the vast majority lean left. So, all right. So Sinclair is, pulling up the right. Like, I guess it's just kind of nuts to me how when one station maybe is just like a little bit more blatant about like, listen, we're going to go after this side of things. And everyone's like, what? That's bias. That's crazy. But like when the vast majority are doing exactly that, and it's almost like they don't see it because all of them are doing it. So they just think it's truth versus bias, I guess. They don't understand, like they're all playing the same game. It's just like they're playing it on that side of the field and they're playing it on the other. There's not really much difference. And you're right. It's a lot of viewers have decided that they like Sinclair for that reason, because they weren't necessarily going down the Trump derangement gravy train.
No, I remember a viral video of Sinclair going on about talking about integrity.
Yeah.
They spliced it all together, and we showed how even Sinclair, right wing, was coordinating as much as CNN. So I'm not a fan of any coordination of media, but rather truth. But yeah,
but like let me give you a little bit of pushback on this one. I was in a Stand for Truth campaign. You can find it if you Google my name and Stand for Truth. And I was in this commercial, and we were all like, had to say, I'm Alison Morrow and I stand for truth, and everybody had to say that. So like every station has their campaign where they're like, and this is, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing new with what Sinclair did. It's just that there was their bias for what they were pushing was different than what the other stations were pushing.
Well, first of all, there was so nothing new with what Sinclair did. I didn't know it was right leaning until I looked into it. I thought it was CNN, and then I was like, okay, well,
but you know what? Like in Seattle, Como is owned by Sinclair, and they actually went after the homeless, which is really a drug crisis in Seattle, and just like the mess that Seattle has become. Lots of the other stations would maybe they'd pick a little here and there or whatever, but they didn't go hard after it. And Como did a couple hour-long specials. Is that because, you know, their management is okay with like saying, you know what, this is ridiculous. This liberal, you know, city council doesn't want to face the fact that they're running the town into the ground, that there are people with severe addictions that are like living in filth because they're just like, you know, oh, like peace and love. It's the summer of love or whatever the mayor said, you know? So it took Como to go after that really hard. Is that because they have conservative ownership? Maybe, you know, because the liberal station, I remember as an environmental reporter, how hard it was to get any environmental group to comment on the fact that there's so much filth related to that issue, you know, the just crap that's going in water, the trash everywhere, because they didn't want to talk about it. And, you know, so, all right, well, if you have conservative management that's just like, you know what, screw this. Like, we're not going to play the peace, love, and elbow grease thing. We're going to go after it. Maybe that's what it takes.
Perfect. Now to
sorry, that was my rant.
No. I mean, I'm going to wrap it all up, man. I've got to plug my thing for tomorrow, and everybody's got to plug out. I'm really, really stoked because I've wanted this author for 2 years now. Tom O'Neill is coming on. He wrote the book Chaos. This is the definitive book about the Manson family, the CIA. It ties to the Kennedy assassination. It is absolutely mind-blowing. If you've read Helter Skelter, Bugliosi would probably be disbarred with the material that came out in this book. He's dead. Okay. We can say what we want. So is Manson. So is everybody, but it is an amazing, amazing book. I've wanted to have him on for a while. He does not do many interviews or some negotiation. It had to happen to get it to happen, but I mean, he'll go on Rogan. He's coming on me, which is awesome.
That's amazing.
I'm really, really.
Well, did you just have Chase stop by and say hi to him, and all of a sudden he was like, "Yes, I'll do the interview."
No, this one was a little harder. I had to put in my own smarminess, but
I read Helter Skelter in high school. Traumatized me for life. So and it had pictures in the middle part of the book back when we had books. It was terrible.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, the plates. Yes, it's mind blowing. I mean, the book, I'm not kidding you, is absolutely mind blowing. It is like 3 hush hushes in a row. And Viva has been scared off with the dead battery and Charles Manson. I don't know which is more intimidating, but
I think he might have had a little bit of gin before he hopped down because the A from Viva was missing from the.
This is like the beginning of my live stream with Felix, the Hollywood actor, when he was just going in and out. Remember that, Eric?
I do, but you know what? I'm glad you persevered. That was a fantastic interview. The dude
he's
is awesome.
A really interesting guy. Yeah.
Everybody's like, you need to have him on with Mark Robert. I'm like, she already got everything out of him. I mean,
no, you should have him. The two of them might have a lot to talk about. Yeah, you should totally get him. He'd love to. He's great. He's great on camera. I can attest to it. You know, professional.
He's one of those who doesn't hold back. So
everything about him. One thing I learned about him is that he actually was like the original creator of what is now Orange Theory. He had something called Shred Mill in the 80s. Okay. And he even has a video up on YouTube where he and some other lady in Hollywood are telling you how to do high interval training on a treadmill. I'm like, what happened? You guys were the original Orange Theory and wah. But then again, I was the original I Quit TV News and went to YouTube, and look at me and look at Ivory. So it's all about timing, right?
Well, there you go. And Barnes, what do you have coming up?
The O'Keefe thing was the big thing.
Okay. You got anything?
Yeah, that was a huge interview. And what about the timing? That timing was crazy that you got him right after this whole thing. That was awesome.
Well, it's because Viva's done so much favorable commentary, really covering it because he understands the political significance of his litigation,
Mhm.
but it's not clear that Fox and a lot of other people get it. And maybe it's because Fox doesn't want New York media being held responsible. They may not want to say that. The New York Times loses, Fox is more vulnerable in New York too. But it's been key. Viva's videos have been huge to educate his audience and a broader audience as to from a lawyer's perspective as to why this is such a consequential case and why these wins are really quite extraordinary. I almost represented him, by the way, back in New Orleans when he got in trouble originally. People connected to him, reached out to me. They end up getting someone. I forget how it all. I remember saying, yes, I'll take it. And then I forget what happened after that. But that was my introduction to him. I was like, man, that kid's in some trouble. Going after that family in Louisiana, it's like, man, that kid must be naive. I was like, he's lucky he's just in jail. He's lucky he didn't find anything.
All right. Well,
that's the reason why they call it Louisiana fishing.
Okay. Well, folks, as I put out before, go to unstructured.locals.com. Give us some feedback so we can respond to it. And maybe we'll open the next show with what we're hearing from you. Maybe we'll have answers. Maybe we'll have more questions. Maybe we'll say, I have no idea what you were saying, but thank you very much for saying it. For now, everybody, thank you so much.